My name is Victor. I am the occult technician, and this is Mind War. Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War. Join the Mind War today. Enlist at patreon.com/mindwar. Now, back to the show. Welcome back to Mind War, folks. I appreciate you being here. We have a lot to cover today, so let's get started, folks. We're going to pick up where we left off in the book Magic History, Theory, Practice by Dr. Ernst Schertl. We left off on page 71. The second paragraph on that page, which starts with C.L. Schleich explained explicitly. So again, an author. He says this. That the function play of the fantasy, that is to say, the sum of the functions of all which constitutes the notion of the capability of perception, exerts a visual shaping plastic influence on the physical happenings in the body and on the operation of the cell mechanisms. And that the fantasy is able to gain entrance in every body tissue through the fences and enclosures of the cell structure and of the mechanisms of the blood circuit as well as the peripheral nerve streams. Our perception, our imagination plays a part and affects our physical self. Okay, so warning, I know this is early in the podcast. If you self-stimulate and you are constantly spilling your seed and not practicing semen retention as part of your Kundalini practice, you are going to have no gas in your gas tank. You're going to be running on empty all the time, right? You are depleting your body of those magical fluids that you need to practice Kundalini and refill your chakras with. This is what we're talking about. Because often, through the use of adult material or even just the spank bank, you are using your imagination and affecting your physical body. Okay? You are depleting yourself. You are draining yourself over and over again, and that's why you are constantly exhausted. That's why you live at that low layer of vibration. That's why you live in the root chakra, while you're constantly being subjected to the whims of your physical body. Again, those addictions. You're constantly looking for the dopamine hits through your cell phone. You're constantly eating junk food. You're looking to drugs and alcohol and all those type of things. Instead of, again, just replacing those things. When you stop something, when you're working on your addiction, whatever you're addicted to, you cannot just quit it cold turkey and then I'm just going to be tough and I'm not going to do it anymore. No, you have to replace. It's all about replacement. Whatever it is you're addicted to today. Of course, some of the harder things, heroin, fentanyl, all that stuff, I'm sure that's different. That's not really what I'm talking about. Alcohol, food addiction, marijuana, those type of things, again, pornography addiction, whatever it might be, it only takes 2 weeks. 2 weeks of a small change And now your habits have changed. The things that you crave have changed. Simply replacing one food with another for 2 weeks, the old craving for the ice cream or whatever it was that you were going for every night at the same time, you replace it with something else, something healthier, and now after 2 weeks, you begin to crave that healthy thing. And actually, your body will be disgusted by the junk food. That's how simple it is. Small, incremental changes that, again, just a short period of time will have dramatic effects on your life. And again, sometimes you just have to use your imagination. You have to imagine yourself first, what do I replace this ice cream with? Right? You have to use your imagination and say, what am I going to replace it with? And there's a million alternatives to having healthy substitutes for ice cream. You can find them, and you just have to use your imagination to find it. But when you make that change, it has a true drastic change on your physical reality. This formative power of the imagination is not only limited to the pertaining body, but once initiated, the process of emission of energy can also spread beyond the body surface to the other surrounding cosmic layers, which then possibly subject to its influence. If you're eating healthier and your physical body is becoming healthier, guess what? You have more energy. Maybe you're not as exhausted all the time. That exhaustion, which was leading you towards the unhealthy eating. When you get done with the unhealthy eating, then you feel shame. Why did I eat all that stuff? Ugh, now I physically feel sick. Now you're upset with yourself. Now you're guilty. Now you feel angry with yourself. Now you're depressed and you're sinking lower and lower and lower. But with just those few changes, those few small changes, now the physical body starts to feel better, which ultimately results in the mental body feeling better as well. The spiritual, the mental, the emotional. And you start to get uplifted. And when you are now uplifted in your mindset, the physical body is healthier, the mind is healthier. Now the manifestations really start coming. All of a sudden, all sorts of things start to get created in your reality. That the imagination is able to gain power over the objects of the environment is fundamentally no more mysterious than the fact that a simple figment of the imagination is enough to cause nausea in us. And telekinesis is no stranger than the fact that we are able to move our extremities with a simple act of volition. Okay. The imagination is able to gain power over the objects of the environment. Okay. Again, we use our imagination to manifest things in our real environment. And it's fundamentally no more mysterious. Again, it's not mysterious. It's not hard. All of this stuff that they've hidden through occultism and esotericism, again, almost every other occultist out there, almost every other esotericist out there that you see in the mainstream, all they talk about is the symbolism. All they talk about is the characters and the monsters and all. They never talk about how it actually applies to your real life. That's what we do here in the Mind War. It's very simple. It's no more mysterious than the fact that a simple figment of the imagination is enough to cause nausea. Okay? If you think of something nasty in your mind, you imagine something gross in your mind, your stomach is going to turn, right? You didn't see the thing in real life. You didn't come across the thing. You're not smelling it, seeing it, tasting it, touching whatever this gross thing is that you're imagining. You're just imagining it in your mind, but it's still making you queasy. Okay, it's the power of imagination. And then telekinesis, he says, is no stranger than the fact that we can move our own arms and legs with our thoughts. I love this idea of telekinesis. I love this idea of communicating without technology, without any, just mind to mind, whether we are communicating, whether we are just using our mind to move physical objects. I love this idea, and I would love to see deeper research into that subject, right? In contrast to the empirical effect on things, which becomes possible because of our muscles and tools, we refer to the effectiveness of the imagination as magical. The border between both forms is overlapping, since the empirical effects also have a certain imaginative foundation. Again, we often see people who are successful at creating things, and sometimes we look at it like magic. Again, we look at our cell phones. And I always tell people, again, this is coming from someone who was an information technology specialist for the military, for the financial system, the retail system. I worked in healthcare. I worked in the school system. All of it. I worked through all the different places where you could do IT work, right? And I still would tell people this stuff's like magic. For as much as I knew about it, as much as I was able to manipulate the network and create the network, it still was like magic to me. And the things that I did were so low layer that when I look at things like our Black Mirror cell phones, I say, that's totally magic to me. I really don't know how some of this stuff works. I think in theory I understand it, but man, there's something magical about those devices that's even over my head, right? And that's okay. It's okay to understand that and believe that and feel it. That's that mystery of life. It's beautiful. Enjoy it, right? So again, this book was supposedly one of Adolf Hitler's favorite books. There was a researcher that went through Hitler's library, found his copy of the book Magic History Theory Practice by Dr. Ernst Schertl, saw that it was worn out and had all types of annotations on the side. And this next paragraph was highlighted by Hitler, and it says this: today's man resists these insights. Okay, let's stop there. Today's man, and he means today, right now, most people are going to resist the information being provided here in the Mind War. That's right. They don't even want to hear what we're talking about. This is the struggle that we face. This is why there are so few mind warriors, citizen samurais, guerrilla gurus, and warrior monks. People don't want to hear this information. They want to stay in their state of living somnambulance, where they are hypnotized by other people's stories, where they allow themselves to fall into the fairy tales of others, right? Today's man resists these insights. He raves about empiricism and rejects all imaginations. Does that not sound more real today than ever? Today's man resisting and rejecting imagination. He does not know that his empirical worldview, in which he takes great pride. So many people are proud of their ignorance today. They wallow in their pride for being a specific religion, a specific political type, a specific race, or whatever the fuck they are, right? They're proud in their ignorance. He does not know that his empirical worldview, in which he takes great pride, also ultimately rests on imaginations. That's right, man. So many of the things that people in the world today believe are real are fake stories of someone else's imagination. Sad. It's fucking sad, man. Empty-minded morons. Every worldview is built on an imaginative basic synthesis. Even the most palpable facts only exist if we do not discuss certain basic ideas, which are quite imaginative, but believingly accept them. Man, be careful about what you accept in your belief system, right? Let's go on to the next paragraph. It says, here it is the same as with the constellations. These are constructed from individual observations of stars, which we combine with imaginary lines to certain figures. We talked about the constellation Harry a few episodes ago. My grandfather, my blood biological grandfather, who I never met because he died when my mother was young. He appeared to me in the black mirror as a constellation of stars. It was a beautiful feeling. And I hope that someday you have contact with your ancestors in the same way. But the individual observations of the stars are also on a sticky wicket, since some of these stars do not exist anymore, and they are all not standing at the places anymore where we are observing them as a result of the deflection of the ray of light. What the author's saying there is that the theory is that many of the stars that we see in the night sky, the light that is coming from those stars, it's coming from a distance that is so far in the universe that by the time the light gets to us, the star that was the star that created that light no longer even exists. So if we were to get in a spaceship and fly towards a star that we saw the light coming from, at some point in our travels, the light coming from that star would zip past us, and we'd see it go past us towards Earth. And by the time we got to the star, it wouldn't be there anymore because it had already burned out and all of its light had dissipated. If we take that analogy of the star and put it into today's facts that are presented by the mainstream, man, we're staring at stars every day. All these things that the mainstream tells us, it's all light from stars that burst millennia ago. These next few paragraphs, actually, these next two pages were both either highlighted by Hitler or myself. So let's see where this goes. After these contemplations, it won't seem totally unjustified if we assign the primacy within our living activities to the imagination, particularly given that without it, not only a worldview would be impossible, but that we would also get to know doing or acting whatsoever, since all our aims, evaluations, and ideals are exclusively imaginative in origin. Everything that we do, every structure that was built, every organization, corporation, and institution that was created, every belief, all of it was an imagination of someone at some point. Then they manifested into reality. The question is, are you going to give yourself over to someone else's imagination? Are you going to dedicate your belief system to the imagination of others? Let's go on. Another highlighted paragraph. The man with the greatest force of imagination is commanding of the world and creates realities according to his will instead of being the slave of an unsubstantial, bodiless empiricism. Are you a slave to someone else's imagination? You have to ask that question. What is it that you worship? What is it that holds meaning to you? Is it something that came from your imagination, or are you a slave to someone else's? Empiricism fulfills the laws of probability, but imagination makes the impossible happen. Imagination makes the impossible happen. There are so many impossible things still waiting to occur in our future of humanity. It's countless. No one should ever lose hope, because impossible things haven't occurred yet, but we're on the cusp every day. Something that was said to be impossible yesterday is happening today. And something that we call impossible today is going to happen tomorrow. The question is, are you going to bring about the impossible or not? Or are you going to be held down and enslaved by other people's limited, built upon structures, already cemented in reality structures? Again, we've talked about that. If you find yourself being, some type of an authoritative voice for some, an organization, corporation, or institution, you can't go outside of their belief system. If you do, you're going to be shunned. That's also why we have to be careful about those things. That's also why we shun them. We don't join groups. It's not what we do. We have to stand outside of them because we don't want to allow ourselves to be boxed in and pushed into a corner and not allowed to be imaginative anymore. The pure empirical man is the entropic type, which leads to the complete devaluation of cosmic energy. Okay. So he's talking about two different types. We're going to get to the other in a second. Let's start with the first one. The pure empirical man. That is the man who lives today at the basic level of life, and his only belief systems or his only beliefs are, connected with the already concrete organizations, corporations, and institutions. It's just somebody who falls in line and does what they're told. That's the pure empirical man. He is an entropic type. I believe entropic means like not moving, you're decaying, you're not, breathing, you're not getting the water, you're starting to decay. This leads to the complete devaluation of their cosmic energy. And again, that cosmic energy inside of us is just that potential energy that's going to lead to manifestation. But, on the other hand, the imaginative man instead, the magician, is the actual focus of the ectropic, the renewal of the world, the remodeling of the world, the new birth of being. The imaginative man, also known as the magician, is the actual focus of the ectropic, the externalized energy, the energy source that wells within. We harness that. And with our power as magicians, we will bring about the renewal of the world. We will be the ones remodeling the world, and we will be the ones to give birth to the new world. The new world order that we hear about all of the time. We were promised a new world. We were promised a new order. We take very seriously our inheritance. And thus far, we have not received it from those who have come before us. But now we demand it. We demand the new world. We demand the new order. We demand order above law. The law is what holds us down. Billions and billions of laws written from the earth all the way to the moon. None of it makes sense and entraps us. We want order. The law stops the border from being secured. Order secures it. The law stops companies from creating unhealthy foods. The law is make the unhealthy foods, sell it to the masses. Order brings about health and rejuvenation. We demand it now. We're not going to wait any longer. We're going to tear down the organizations, corporations, and institutions that have polluted our minds, poisoned our bodies, and corrupted our souls. Felix Orbach, the creator of the physical theory of life, articulated these facts in the following way. Everything in the world, as far as it is of an active character, always inspires to the more probable state. It is anxious, so to speak, to fulfill the laws of the statistic. Everything in life wants to simply be basic. Life wants to be basic and simple. It doesn't want to be complicated. No matter how much we spin our life around, it's spinning around, it's going in a million directions, and it's all over the place. But if you allow it and you stop externally forcing your life through these different things, right? Whatever it is that's attacking you, and you stop, and eventually life slows down and gets back to the basic and the simple. That's where we all want to be. But it is obviously the signature of everything individual, everything specifically ectropic, that it accomplishes the improbable, that it knocks the statistic on its head. The truly ectropic is always new, improbable, and perplexing, a scoff at the statistic, or, if it is spreading and prevailing, founding a new statistic, because the most probable can become probable by the power of its influences. All it takes is one. All it takes is the first mind, warrior, citizen, samurai, guerrilla, guru, warrior, monk to stand up and make a change. And that's what we're doing here in the Mind War. As a result of our physical epistemic analyses, we have now arrived at the definition of magic. What is the author's definition of magic? Magic is autogenic exertion of power on the basis of imagination. Let me repeat that. Magic is the autogenic exertion of power on the basis of imagination. Turning your imagination into reality. And we have gained a new definition for the notion of reality. Are you ready for a new definition of reality? That's what we're doing here in the Mind War. Reality is the becoming and image of our deepest essential powers. The new reality that you are stepping into by doing this work, the new reality that you are creating, is you are becoming the image of your deepest essential powers. You have powers, abilities within you. They are currently being stifled by our cultural, societal, and religious wet blankets. They feed you unhealthy foods, They give you poison in the medicine, and they destroy your soul through their religions. They're constantly attacking you. Because they know deep inside all of us are these essential powers that can be harnessed to fulfill our truths. And the truth is nothing receptive, but something creative. The process of observation, not a process of depiction, but of construction. The truth isn't our observation. It's in the construction of our reality. I highlighted this next part. The man who lets his powers of imagination grow until the creation of material reality is a magician. The man who lets his powers of imagination grow until the creation of material reality is a magician. This is what we're talking about. You're not hearing this anywhere else. No one else is as clearly defining what a magician is than we are here in the Mind War podcast. You're not hearing it anywhere else. All you're hearing is lies. All you're hearing is watered down falsities. But here, we hear it in its most basic form. Let me say it again. The man who lets his power of imagination grow until the creation of material reality is a magician. He possesses that primeval double visibility. Not only do we see the reality that's in front of us, but we see the reality that we can become. Which not only enables him to perform the inside view, but also opens to him a world of pictures, things, and forms which he creates himself and pulsates them with the forces of the universe. Thus, he differs from the mere mystic who flees every created reality and never lets his inner body energies come up to the point of becoming an image. Don't run away when you get that first glimpse, man. Don't turn away from the void when you get your first look at it, when you see it in front of you in all of its eternal glory. Don't be afraid of that darkness, boy, I tell you. As a result of this flight before the concreteness, the pure mystic is not able to unfold magical effects, oh no, but must always be content with mere emotional immersion into the non-pictorial dynamic of the cosmic. All the mystic does is get a faint waft of the perfume. They smell the cosmic forces on the wind, but they are not the ones creating it. That's what we do as magicians. Again, this next paragraph highlighted by myself and Adolf Hitler. We call the central focus of the cosmic forces in us our God or our demon. Again. We call the central focus of the cosmic forces in us, so the cosmic dynamic force within us, we either call that our God or our demon. We've talked about the pendulum. God, demon, angel, demon, whatever you want to call them. It's all the same. It's all the same pendulum. There is no difference between your angels and your demons. Your demons usually represent the negative human characteristics in us. The human characteristics in some people that they cannot control, and allow those characteristics consume them and destroy them. That's the demon. The angel, on the other hand, is our better side. That's what they tell us, right? Love, compassion, empathy, all of those things. Human characteristics also represented by angels. We give them a character. We create an image of them. We create images of empathy, of love, of dedication, all of these type of things. They all have their own angels as well. That's for another podcast. You'll have to find that somewhere else. It describes the punctual projection of the whole dynamic of the universe, with all of its abysmal infiniteness in ourself. It signifies the deepest sense, the first being and the highest value, created in the center of our consciousness, out of senselessness, beingless, and valueless chaos of paracosmic forces. These paracosmic forces within us often feel chaotic because we are often being led around by the nose by the organizations, corporations, and institutions that pollute our minds, poison our bodies, and corrupt our souls. We can never get our foot planted on solid ground because we're constantly being thrashed in one direction or another because of someone else's belief systems. And we're stepping out of that chaos. We're finding order. This parathenogenesis of the God in us, this primeval creation of a sense out of the senseless, is the darkest secret of existence and is the actual principium individuationis, the actual act of creation, and withstands every thinking dissection and every potential imagination that it itself might be the origin and foundation of every thought and every imagination. This ability to control your own imagination, to control and harness your emotions, turn them into imaginations, and then create and manifest in your reality, is known as one of the darkest secrets of existence. Another powerful reading today from the book Magic History Theory Practice by Dr. Ernst Schertl. And when we return, we're going to continue through my magical journey over on Instagram at The Occult Technician in just a moment. Okay, welcome back, folks. We're going to continue on my magical journey over on Instagram at The Occult Technician. You're going to scroll all the way down to a post from April 5th, 2023, and the title is Brian Redband opens a box of clothing and art that I sent him. Thank you, Redband. Okay, so this is a real departure from my earlier posts. And what we see here in this post, so for those of you who may not know, Brian Redband was the basically co-founder of the Joe Rogan Experience. He was the kind of technological brains behind Joe Rogan's early podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. When he was first recording it, literally in his apartment, on his couch, Brian Redband was the man doing the recording. He helped Joe Rogan with the Joe Rogan Experience podcast for over a decade. I mean, quite a long time. And then he went over to work with Tony Hinchcliffe on the Kill Tony podcast, or the Kill Tony Show or whatever, right? And that's literally one of the biggest comedy podcasts in the world right now. It's massive. Brian has seen huge success with all that, which is awesome. Now, on April 5th, 2023, the video that we're seeing here, again, go watch it over on Instagram. I think I even put it up on my YouTube. And basically, it's a 10-minute video. And what I did here was my first act of what I call guerrilla marketing. So I know this is a little different than magic, but if you like, you can go onto my Patreon. Go to my Patreon account. You're going to find a video there. I believe I titled Guerrilla Marketing and Symbolism. Okay. So what I did was I knew that Brian had his own podcast called Virtual Red Band, where like once a week, maybe twice a week, he'll come on YouTube. He goes live. He talks for about an hour about different things that are going on Kill Tony or in the comedy scene. He likes to drink alcohol and smoke a little weed. It's a lot of fun just kind of hanging out with him while he's doing this live. You can communicate with him through the chat and stuff, right? And then after about an hour of that, he'll go in and do a couple of hours where he's actually in virtual reality, playing different games with his friends, right? Kind of fun. It's a fun show. And so I thought to myself, okay, the Virtual Red Band live show usually has less than 100 followers. And I said, okay, if he's coming out here and doing this every week for less than 100 people, he's putting himself in a position where he's easily accessible, right? Again, this is the man who created the two most powerful podcasts probably in the world right now, right? I mean, the Joe Rogan Experience and the Kill Tony Show, they're massive, in our reality, in our culture, they are massive points of information, right? Great shows to watch. And I realized, man, this guy is such a powerful figure, but he's right there. He's right there. You can reach out and talk to him. You can get his attention. And so one of the things I noticed is that every time you would start the podcast, he'd say, hey, here's my P.O. box if you would like to send something. Bing, a light went off. I'm not a marketing guy. I never went to university for marketing. Okay? No. I started to think strategically. I started to think covertly. How can I use this man? How can I use Red Band to promote myself? Okay? A little selfish, whatever, but that's how the game works. So what I did is I put together a box of t-shirts that I printed for him and all the regulars on the Kill Tony Show. And I put one of my art pieces, a literal physical piece of art, just like the one you see in front of me right now. I sent one of those to Brian Red Band. And he spent 10 minutes opening the package and talking about it and showing the t-shirts. It worked perfectly. It's exactly what I needed, right? This was my first attempt, again, at guerrilla marketing, getting out there, contacting very important people who are right there on the edge. They're easily accessible. I can never contact Joe Rogan. There is no way that any message that I ever send is going to get to him. But Brian Red Band, he's right there. Think about that as you're moving forward. Whether you're doing a podcast, if you're starting a new podcast and you want to make waves and you want to start getting attention, don't go out there and try to contact Joe Rogan and all the other big podcasters out there. They're not going to listen. But if you start lower, start at the lower podcast. Again, kind of like I did with the Kill Podcasters Network. We'll talk about that in the future, right? I contacted lower podcasts and started to form a group. I saw, hey, here's a group of guys. They look cool. Let's work with them. Let's talk with them. This is how you build your structure up, right? And again, sending out these t-shirts, sending out the art to someone who is easily accessible. Again, just an example of what I call guerrilla marketing. Now, Brian, if you're hearing this, I'm sure you're not, but if you are, please, bro, the piece of art that I sent you, you set it on the floor behind you I can see it every time you go live. It's literally sitting behind a box, and all I see is about the top few inches of the triangle. I see the first little star, and it's just sitting there. It's been there for like almost 2 years now, folks. Please, Brian, hang it on the wall, okay? Because what I'm trying to do is the symbol. I just need the symbol to be seen by people. That's all I was trying to do with that. I just wanted to get it out there. My hope is that it would hang in the background of his virtual red band studio and people would see it every time they log in. I was hoping that he would wear the t-shirt on and the sweatshirts that I sent him on Kill Tony. That would have been seen by millions of people. That's the goal. Get the symbol in front of people's faces, right? Because again, as we know, every time you copy a sigil or a symbol, the same amount of mana that was originally put into it carries with it that same information, okay? So that was a fun one. If you have any questions about guerrilla marketing, again, go to my Patreon. You can find the video over there, or just send me a message. There's a few ways to do it. My email at theocculttechnician@gmail.com. That's one way. I don't check the Gmail account very often, maybe once a month, but you can find me on Instagram anytime. Shoot me a message if you have more ideas or want to do some strategizing for your guerrilla marketing, okay? So the next post is from April 7th, 2023. And let's see. This was an interesting night. Okay. So on this post from April 7th, 2023, again, I start with another picture where there's 4 of me. I have multiplied myself. You see Victor there. He's the one holding the black book. That's me. That's the me you see now. That's the character known as Victor. He's the head of this operation. Okay. He's standing there reading out of the black book. He has glasses on, all that stuff. Flanked on both sides are the security victors, right? The security guards. They're always there keeping an eye on things. And then next to him is the victor that was the apprentice. In these pictures, when you see the victor there, this is the one who's standing there with the headphones on. He's looking down at the obsidian ball. He has the candle in front of him. That represents the apprentice. That was me, the victor with the black book, teaching myself magic. That is my representation of myself as the early learner, right? As the apprentice, as you will. Okay. So we can go through the next page. You see the obsidian ball there. It's in black and white. I pulled the card, the Queen of Swords. Very interesting. Great full moon there. So I went back and I looked through my journal here to read what happened that night. Now this was awesome. Okay. So again, I don't want to go too much into this magical technique. We might save this for the magical practice section, but here's kind of what I did that night. So the table, as you can see in that picture, was in the middle of my living room. And so I stood there at the edge of the table. This was, again, after the enhancements of THC and psilocybin, listening to the Gateway Experience tape, getting into the state of somnambulance, going over to the table, putting on the headphones with the hypnotic music, doing my breath work, doing the kundalini, doing the stare. Okay. While I was doing these things, I held onto the table and I closed my eyes. And as soon as I closed my eyes, I'm standing there in front of the table and I visualize. This is all in my imagination. And it also feels like it's happening, because when you close your eyes, you kind of get a little disoriented, especially if you're standing. You get a little wobbly, right? And definitely when you're in that state of mind that I was in. And all of a sudden, butterflies in my stomach, because the table that I was on basically became the tip of this huge obsidian mountain that was growing underneath it. Again, all of this was visualizing. Oh, I've seen all this in my mind. So I'm standing there at the table, and all of a sudden, this mountain of obsidian underneath it just pushes us up into the sky. And there I am standing at the table. And again, my eyes are closed. I'm visualizing all this. I can see it clear as day in front of me. And we're standing there at the top of this obsidian hill or this mountain, and the tables are the tables in front of me. Standing in front of me is Victor. The Victor in the uniform that you see, Uncle Vic. There he is. Officer Vic's, one on each side. And we are standing at the table, and now we are starting to discuss the mind war. This is before the podcast ever started, folks. We are talking about the real mind war, the war that we are all currently fighting right now. You're all in it. You're all enemy combatants of the mind war. And I'm standing there. We're at this table, and again, at the top of this giant obsidian pillar, really, it wasn't even a hill or a mountain. It was a pillar that just shot us into the abyss, right? And we're standing there, and I'm having this strategy session with myself, talking about the mind war, how we fight it, what it is. And behind Victor, I see thousands of people, thousands of black shadows standing behind him. This is our army. This is the same army of souls that we found and that we communicated with during the Gateway Experience tapes. I told you, we stood there. We saw all of our ancestors before us. They all stood there, glowing, reaching out to us. Victor, please, what do we do? Where do we go from here? They begged because they were trapped in those cultural, societal, and religious wet blankets of their time frame. Remember what Monroe said to us. You have to fight past the fake heaven. You have to fight your way past the fake hell. You have to fight your way past the fake God, the Lord your God. You have to fight your way past them to find the truth of what happens after we die. And so many of them were there, waiting for a leader. And I told them, I'm not going to let you down. And I've been fighting that war ever since. It was a beautiful imagination. It was a beautiful practice of my imagination. It was powerful. It refilled me and gave me strength to do what we're doing today. And you are going to have that type of moment in your own way as well. And that's what happened on that night. That's what I was reading through my post here. Again, you can go through, you can see the tarot card pull. We already talked about that. The rest of it was a normal night, but it was beautiful. It was amazing. Now, okay, we got to finish up with this one because this is huge. This is a huge post. April 8th, 2023. Okay. So we're going to describe what we're seeing here. We see that we're here in the Mind War Studios before it was a studio. This is just the room that I was doing my new moon practices in down here. I do the new moon things underground if I can. My feet on the earth as much as I can to be grounded. The new moon is for grounding, right? And so what we see is the sigil here. The room was bathed in red flame lights. And I had used a projector to project onto the wall behind me here a big cross. Big Christian cross that kind of looks like it's on fire, right? And the song that I'm playing in this post is, again, another song from the 12 Tribes of Israel, the cult, the Judeo-Christian cult that my best friend Joey, a.k.a. Dayog, is a member of. And here's what I wrote underneath this post, and this is fucking crazy. Easter 2023. As I stood in front of the altar in the black pitch of night, I inhaled darkness through my mouth and exhaled millions of shadow spiders out my nose. Victor, what the fuck does that mean? What are you talking about? The night before I made this post, before I made this video, I was very upset. I had been working at the library. I believe it was around this time when the guy came in and tried to stab me. I believe that's what this was all about, right? It may have been kind of leading up to that, but I was very upset. I came home from work that night so fucking mad. I turned off all the lights in my house. I put the music on. I don't remember what I was listening to, but it was something that was emotionally driving for me. And I stood there in the fucking darkness, man. Just fucking tensed up, just raging, just forcing the kundalini, right? Just breathing so fucking mad. And again, in my imagination, here's what I visualized. I was so angry. I took a deep breath in through my mouth. And I held it. I held it as long as I could. I put all of my anger, all of my hate into that breath. I held it all. I compressed it into the air that was in my lungs. I held it until I was shaking and couldn't hold it anymore, and then I released it out my nose. I exhaled. And when I did, I was visualizing millions of shadow spiders coming out of my nose. I don't know where the fuck that came from. I don't know what it meant. I had no clue. I didn't go into it consciously thinking that. I didn't plan that this was going to happen. It was the raw emotion in me occurring. I inhaled through my mouth. I held my breath. I pushed all of my anger, all of my emotions into that breath, and then I exhaled. When I did, again, eyes closed, I exhaled, and the visualization that I had in my mind was that millions of shadow spiders were coming out of my nose and crawling throughout the city. It was fucking wild, man. It felt very intense. It felt very good. It was an example of processing your emotions. Instead of chugging a beer or cutting myself or whatever the fuck it might have been, I did that. I harnessed that energy. The very next day, I made this video. And we're going to start watching it from the beginning again. And what you're going to see, again, the way that I had the cross projected on the wall was through a physical projector. Okay? Inside the physical projector was a real life spider. And you're seeing it on the screen right now. That is a real life spider that was inside the projector, projecting its shadow on the cross on the wall, crawling all over my sigil. A giant shadow spider appeared in my art the very next day after breathing in darkness through my mouth and exhaling shadow spiders out of my nose. Do you guys understand what the fuck I'm saying here? This is magic. This is how your imagination can manifest in reality. The interesting part with this one is I couldn't control that fucking spider. I didn't put the spider in the projector. Even if I would have, there's no fucking way I could have got him to walk around the lens and project himself directly on the cross like that. That's where supernatural shit comes in, man. I don't know what that is. That's the para-cosmic forces working in reality. What you are seeing, this video, this is reality. This was a projector, a physical projector, projecting light onto the wall. A real physical spider walked in front of the lens, creating a shadow spider on the wall. This is what it means. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Do you see how this can play out? When I saw that fucking spider crawl on the wall, I don't think I've ever had bigger goosebumps, man. My heart started fucking beating. I started sweating. I go, what the fuck is happening? Because right then I knew something real was happening here with this magic stuff, man. It was, well, a year plus into my work, a year and 4 months into my work, and I was starting to see some very supernatural, unexplainable things happening. Again, the night before I made this video, in anger, I stood in my living room in the darkness. I inhaled through my mouth, held that breath in, pushed all of my anger, all of my hatred into my breath. And when I exhaled it through my nose, I visualized it. The representation that I exhaled through my nose was black shadow spiders. Shadow fucking spiders, man. Millions of them crawling out of my nose. It was scary as fuck. There is no fear here in the Mind War. The very next day when I made this video, a real life, in reality, in our physical material world, a shadow spider about 2 feet in diameter showed up in my art. That's fucking magic. I appreciate you being here. And as always, folks, remember, harden your hearts and open your minds, because this is Mind War.
I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will never die. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live a new life. I have come to bring you truth. I have come to bring you life. If you believe, then you shall live. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will never die. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live a new life. In my word all men will come to know. It is love that makes the spirit grow. If you believe, then you shall live. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will never die. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live a new life. Keep in mind the things that I have said. Remember me in the breaking of the bread. If you believe, then you shall live. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will never die. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live a new life. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will never die. I am the resurrection